So the lady of the moment today, Zanele, our guest speaker, is a multi-forbes featured founder and CEO, a certified change management consultant, neuro coach, TEDx speaker, and author. But beyond the titles, she has built a powerful platform helping individuals as well as organizations rethink the assumptions, behaviors, and identities that no longer serve us. So I hope today, after this session, we will implement, not just take notes and then they get a dust, but go out there and implement. Please help me welcome Zanele.
Thank you so much. It's so exciting to be with all of you and to spend time with incredible women who do exactly what I do on a day to day. You know, one of the things I love about speaking to speakers and consultants and trainers and facilitators is that you don't have to explain yourself. You don't have to explain the way you speak. You don't have to explain the kind of day you have. You don't have to explain that you're submitting proposals and this and that, and you were on stage and now you need to spend the whole weekend alone, all of that stuff, you all get it. And so I love the fact that this feels like a room that's just you and I together. And I think that's the energy I want to continue as we have this discussion. It's going to be very conversational. So please, if you're not feeling shy, I think let's speak to each other. Let's have a conversation so that at least by the end of this session, one, you've identified one of the key areas where you're stuck. Very much like Balisa said, you can identify one of the key areas where you're stuck, but then two, you have a tiny unlock or you can solution around that area to say, okay, so maybe this is the tiny experiment that I need to make. Because the journey of unlearning, and this is the sad news that the people often say to me, Zanele, so how do I unlearn? And I use all of the experience and work that I do is to say, well, the way that we unlearn at the level of our neurology is we learn something new. And that's probably not the most exciting thing to hear because what we think unlearning is forgetting who we used to be. But it's the building of the new neural pathways. It's the crafting of the new habits. It's the building of a new pattern that replaces and prunes the old one that we don't use. And that's the big conversation. And that's where I really want us to focus in today, because unless we do some of that unlearning work, we stay in that spiral. Have you ever found yourself, and maybe this is the first question I'd like us to think about, as you are in your business right now, and as you grow, whatever it is that you're doing, the different parts of your business, your organization, have you ever found yourself in a place where it feels like you're stuck in a loop? And it's like, okay, but a year ago I had the same challenge with cash flow. No, no, no. But a year ago I also hired someone and it didn't work. But what's going on here? Why does it feel like this same challenge issue is repeating itself? And give me a thumbs up if that sounds familiar at all, unless I'm in the wrong room. Wonderful. Very, very common. And that's when you know. I often say that when you feel like you've been stuck in a loop, that's when you know that it's time to unlearn. And so before we start off this conversation, I want to share a story with you and then share three examples from my journey that told me it was time to unlearn, or points in my career and in my professional building of my speaking, training, consulting business where I knew I had to unlearn. So the story goes as follows. There was a traveler who was walking through a thick forest one day, was completely lost, didn't know where she was, and she was walking through this forest. And there were these huge, tall trees, and the traveler had to move through the trees and squeeze through because some of them were very close to each other and they would get smacked by branches on the face. It was a really, really hard trek until they came out of the trees and they found themselves at this body of water. So imagine like a lake. So they found themselves at this lake and they thought, oh, thank goodness the trees are done. I'm at the lake now. And they thought, okay, so the next part of my journey, I have to cross this lake. And so they thought, okay, how do I do that? And so they took some branches from bamboo and around them, shrubs from around them, and they built this beautiful raft that they could use to cross the water. Yes, solution. So they created this raft, they climbed on and they crossed the water with this raft. Got to the other side of the water and she thought to herself, this is amazing. I made it. And then she looked at the raft and in her mind, she went, I don't know when I'm going to use this raft again. it could save me another opportunity or another chance or situation that I might face. And so she grabbed the raft, strapped it to her back for next time, you never know. And then she started to trek again. But then now the next part of her journey was this thick forest, very similar to the old one. And what started to happen is that as she was trying to squeeze through the trees, the raft kept getting in the way. And so she couldn't move through the next part of her journey because she was still carrying this big raft that wasn't suited for her current environment, or because she was thinking to herself, but I don't know if I'm going to need it again. It served me so well in the past, I might as well hold on. And that is a huge indication. That story for me is so beautiful because it's an analogy for why we need to unlearn. Because often we will carry these strategies, we will carry these business models, we will carry these services and these products and these keynotes that are not necessarily serving, but we will carry them because they worked 10 years ago, or because this person was a great part of our team a month ago. So I'm going to keep them. Who knows? Who knows? If you've ever had a VA or an executive assistant who's just not quite cutting it, you'll know exactly what I mean. We keep and we hold on to these rafts. So there were three different situations for me that taught me that I needed to unlearn, and they might resonate with you. First one is I came from a background as a primary school teacher. That's what I did for a while before I came into the work I do now, hence my slightly educational psychology background. And so when I moved into speaking and facilitating and coaching and consulting, I brought a lot of that teacher chalk and talk into my keynote presentation until I noticed, everyone is falling asleep when I'm speaking in front of the room. It's not working. So that was the first example. The second one is the way I entered full-time speaking was through a competition you may be familiar with called the Speaker Factor competition. The very first time it was done, Factor, goodness, I almost completely botched that. So it was duplicated from PSA UK and I, and then PSA SA also duplicated the competition. So we have it now as well. And it's a novice competition where you stand up front, you've got 5 minutes, and you need to do that kind of a presentation. And so I did the Speaker Factor and I won it. So I thought that's how you deliver a speech, until I stood in front of a corporate client and I realized, no, you're allowed to be authentic. You're allowed to do your own thing. It doesn't have to be this slide and that slide and talking like this. And then the third one for me was probably the biggest and most recent. I had an incredible human being who was in a part of my business that had entered my business at a time when we were still small. And she used to lead a part of the business that was growing. I'm trying to be as vague as possible, until we got to a point where it wasn't working. I knew I needed a C-level individual in that role. And I thought, it's okay, we'll manage, until I got to a point in my business where I was carrying a raft on my back. And it was time to be technically focused. It was time to build a strategy around that area of the business. And it was just not working. And so I had to put the raft down. And all three of those examples are mine, but I'm sure and I hope that they at least remind you or help you think of examples in your own personal space, in your business right now, where you're carrying a raft that's no longer working. And maybe let's pause there for 2 seconds before kicking off with the rest of the conversation. And I'd love to maybe go around. I think there's enough of us. We're a nice, intimate group. Just share one raft, and we'll look at specific examples in different areas of our businesses just now. But one that comes to mind quite clearly to say, this is a raft that I'm definitely carrying that I actually should be putting down. Anyone want to go first?
Oh, I can. I'm actually at the moment I'm really working on this because I realize my day-to-day schedule needs to change. It's so, I can be really busy with doing office work and doing that, but but too little let myself time to just think, reflect, read things, and then build them into the things. It's interesting. I had sometimes I do that on the weekend, and then I feel like, oh, I worked the whole weekend, and now on Monday I need to relax. That's not really clever. Yeah. And yeah, and just doing the things that everything is in place, But I forget about sales and I forget about how to inspiration. Yeah. And if I'm the thought leader, I should think, right?
Right? I mean, you would think, right? Beautiful. Lisa,
Yeah,
go ahead.
yeah. On that note, I'm still busy with the whole trying to unlearn thing. I have a company, it's a consultancy company, Coida, Workmen's Compensation. So it's admin, it's operational, it's admin heavy. So I've been doing this for over 10 years now. So I'm so over and done with the monotonous work. I feel I'm at the stage where I need to do advisory more than admin work. So this year, beginning of this year, then I restructured the company to be an advisory firm. However, every time when I speak to prospective clients, I still have that admin heavy mentality. Even the pricing, I still structure my pricing according to the one, two, three. I forget that advisory and admin is totally different worlds. So I'm really, really struggling. Even to this day, I feel like I've lost my balance in the company. I don't know whether I'm going or coming back. I don't know. Yeah.
Great
Thank you.
examples.
Wow. Very good. Yes, I
Very, very real examples. Thank you for sharing, both you lovely ladies. Um, I want to have it all. That's my problem. I want to have it all. So I want to have the speaking because I love it. It's my passion and I thrive in the space and I love to serve. I enjoy serving. And the second, I love to work in the recruitment space. So I'm now busy crafting my recruitment business. But often when I'm crafting it, I think of speaking and I switch and I can never give it up. I know it in my heart, in my grit. I cannot give it up. And I'm trying to find a balance where I can make both work. Um, and I'm struggling with it. I'm struggling with it.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. I know you actually just reminded me of a quote I've been hearing a lot lately, and this might be helpful, but it's definitely helped me that you can have it all, but not at the same time. And maybe it's that second part that might be the challenge. And maybe there's certain times where you lean into the one, and there's certain times where the one is predominant, but you can still have all of it.
I like that. I like predominant at one point and not at the other. And I also like I can still have it all.
Yeah, because I'm like you. I want everything.
I want it. I'm not ashamed of it.
I love that. It's beautiful. So, Nali, anything from your side?
Yes, thank you. I think the story has been wonderful and could relate to it. Also, what others shared. I rather have one question to you, if I may ask, please. How do you exactly know what is the overburden part? Because sometimes things too close to your eyes are not visible to your own self. So, whom do you ask, or how do you validate that okay, this is what is bothering me? Because we all feel stuck at one point or the other. Even I have my business, I'm into facilitation trainings, and similar to, I think, Miss Anu, I want it all, this, that. But how do you exactly figure that out, that this is where I'm stuck, or this is the burden from the entire patch of those XYZ things?
Love that. That's a beautiful question. And that's actually where we're going to go now, because I think this is the perfect segue then to get practical once we know what those things are. And maybe let me start here and then we'll go into some examples. But one of the questions that I find is really helpful to ask to help you to figure out what the raft is that needs to be put down is it getting me closer or further from my vision? And while I adored her, and this is the thing, right? As women, when we build teams, we just fall in love with everyone. Oh, she's so sweet. Oh, he's so lovely. But if he's not moving the business further, then he ends up becoming a raft. And so that is a question that might be really helpful. Is the person moving you further or moving you backwards? Yeah. It might not be very nice. And it's not always people. Sometimes it's a product. Sometimes it's a service that you're dedicating time to and investment in that nobody's buying. And even when you position it in front of clients, nobody is requesting it, but you're still pushing this product and investing research in it, but it's just not working. And so let's get a quick example into the room as to why it becomes important for us to be unlearners when we lead our businesses. And then we'll speak about identifying and then how we actually do that. So have a look at the two squares you see in front of you. You might have seen these shepherd tables in the past before, but if you haven't, just smile and wave, pretend you're seeing them for the very first time. So if you have a look at table A and table B, which one would you say is the longest between the two?
A looks longer
Mm-hmm.
from where I'm looking.
Yeah, it looks like it's A.
Yeah. Any other thoughts?
Maybe if you change the direction, the answer may change.
Or measurements.
I like that. I like that. So maybe let me give you an opportunity. If you've got like a pencil or a pen or something, or you can even just use your finger if you have access, of course, to your hands at the moment, to measure the two. And if you measure the two tables, what you'll notice is that they're both exactly the same size, exactly the same, both in length and in height. And that's the fascinating thing. I'll play a video for you now. Hopefully we won't. And there's no sound in it, so it shouldn't be, just to show you that that is in fact the case.
Wow.
Yeah. And if you did measure them, you will already have confirmed it for yourself. But that I find is the most important thing around unlearning. It takes a business owner, it takes a speaker, it takes a facilitator who is humble enough to say that it is my blind spot, it is my biases that are actually the things that are going to get in my way. And the trouble with us as speakers, and you will know this, ladies, the trouble with us as speakers is we're experts. No. I've been doing this for 20 years. I know what I'm talking about. You can't tell me anything about HR. You can't tell me anything about this subject, whatever your subject is, insert subject. And how university at Stanford, research, at Stanford University says that we're thinking on average 60,000 thoughts every single day, day in and day out. Now, take a guess for me in the chat, ladies. What percentage of those thoughts do you think are repetitive according to this research? That means the same thing you were thinking yesterday and the day before that and the day before that and the day before that. What percentage do you think is repetitive? Okay, 50%. Anyone a little bit higher? You've got a
80%.
percentage, Lisa. 95. I knew I like that. No faith in humanity.
80%.
None whatsoever. So that's pretty close. Well done. Thank you very much for engaging, ladies. I love that. So you were all quite close. And what the research found was that 90% of our thoughts are repetitive. And that means that even when we think we are creative and innovative and fresh, there's a very good chance that we're not. And we do understand from an educational psychology and a change perspective that the brain is just trying to conserve energy. If it's using about 20% of the body's energy, it is going to create these beautiful shortcuts to make sure everything is quick, quick, quick. Imagine having to learn how to drive your car every single time you jumped into it. My goodness, you would be exhausted by the end of the day. But you've created that 90% shortcut to help you. But that 90% shortcut, while it's a convenience, ends up becoming an inconvenience. Because in the very same way that you apply it with general thoughts, you also apply it with how you think about your business, how you think about your work, how you think about your industry. And so you get into a position where you've trained yourself to be yourself. You've trained yourself to be the kind of speaker that you are. You've trained yourself to be the kind of business owner that you are. You've trained yourself to be the kind of CEO that you are, if that's the role you hold in your business. And so there's a very, very big chance that you get to a place where, like many of the organizations we work with, you say things like, that's the way we do things here. No, 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 no. In my business, this is how we do things. Our SOP says that we start with step 1, step 2, then step 3. Don't disturb the process. This is how we do things, right? And blink twice if you've ever had an intern in your business or someone who's come in and they said, hey, why don't we try this? And you go, no, 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 we don't do that here. Stuff that. And that's all because each and every one of us approach the process of unlearning and stripping away those rafts that we talked about earlier on very, very differently. And at the Unlearners, we've done some research with clients we've worked with, and we found that there are 4 different unlearning styles. You've got a brave beginner, a quiet disruptor, a conscious rebel, and then a gentle rebuilder. If you ever want to take the quiz, please do scan the QR code, but we don't have enough time now to talk through it. But if you ever want to discover how do you best unlearn, that would be the quiz. And I'm happy to then also share the link. Balisa, you can also share it with the group afterwards if you've got access to it. Cool. So let's jump into it for us now. We're going to start by identifying the area for you that is the raft right now. And then 2, we're going to look at how we begin from today onwards to put that raft down. Because at the end of the day, like the gorgeous lady you see on your screen says, if what you see is all you can see, then you cannot see all there is to be seen. This lady goes by the name of Senator Crystal Asige, and she is a senator, a member of parliament in Kenya. If you have a look at her eyes, you'll see she's completely blind. And while the quote is not hers, when she said it, for me, it blew my mind wide open, because that's what unlearning is about. It's about saying, oh no, but I know this topic. Oh no, but I know this market. Oh no, but I know my clients. This is what they want. But if what you see is all you can see, there is a plethora of possibilities that you are telling yourself are not there, but it's not because they're not there. It's you. You've put on blinkers because you're an expert. And so there are 2 things we need to do, ladies. 1, we need to know what are the things that we need to hold tightly to. So what are the things that we need to hold and keep on our backs? But then 2, what are the things that actually need to be let go of? They're not going to serve us. They're not going to work. We need to put them down. And the organizations, the leaders, the speakers, the facilitators that unlearn the best are the ones that know which things to hold on to and which things to let go of. So let's start with this and identify for ourselves. I like to often share this. If you're interested in the concept of unlearning, challenging how you see things, Amy Herman wrote a fantastic book called Visual Intelligence. And I use optical illusions a lot in my work of unlearning and challenging how we see things. But this is a great one to read. And she says no 2 words are more dangerous than the words obviously and clearly, because nothing is ever obvious and nothing is ever clear. But how often, and you know, as speakers, we often will look at the slide in front of our clients and say, okay, obviously from the data, it's pretty clear from the numbers, right? Because that's just how you speak. So let's start here. Let's see what's so obvious and clear for us. 1, we're going to identify our biggest challenge. So I want you to look at the figure that's on your screen. This is inspired by the incredible work of a gentleman. I'll just need to find his name again because I always forget his name. But he has a concept around the airplane as a model for a business, that a business can almost be thought about. Donald Miller is his name. And this concept says that a business can be thought about as an airplane, where the cockpit is your leadership, marketing is your right engine, sales is your left engine. So think about the 2 parts that power the business forward. Your products are the wings of the airplane, and then your overheads are the body of the plane. So remember, when you are bloated as a business, your marketing and your sales have to work harder to lift because you've got these huge overheads that you don't need. And then cash flow is then the fuel in the airplane. So it's a fairly interesting model. And I find that in his book, I think it's called Small Business I'll need to find the name of the book, but it's a really, really good book where he explains this concept a little bit deeper. So here's my question for you. Name one part of your aeroplane that's working really, really well right now. Which part of your airplane is working really, really well? And you can go into the chat here and name it for me. If you just think, take a step back now, because when you're working in your business, sometimes you don't see these types of things. So maybe step back a little bit and go, what's working really well? Is it your right engine because your marketing is solid, it's consistent, your audience, your customers know exactly what to expect from you. They know what your product is and what you're selling, and you're consistent? Or is it maybe your sales? You're really, really good at that pipeline and managing that. What are you really good at? Let's give ourselves credit first before we find out what we need to work on. So nothing. That's also fine.
No, I was thinking it's a really nice. I like images to think about things. So, and for me at the moment, I think I'm really good at like leading myself at the marketing, the products. Also, I worked a lot on that last year. The overhead is finally back in place, I would say. And in sales and cash flow, I really have to work on. That's something where I said, oh, there's some need.
Yeah.
Or kind of how do you say it in English? There's something to do. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. That made perfect sense already, Carola. I understand exactly what you're saying. And isn't that just interesting? Because if you think about, for example, cash flow, your cash flow is the fuel for the plane. So if you're struggling with cash flow, that airplane's not going to come off the ground. It could have the best marketing strategy, the best sales pipeline. But if you're struggling with cash flow and fuel, which is the fuel, you're going to have a hard time staying in the sky as a business. Yeah, really, really good one. Thanks for sharing that. Anyone else want to share?
For me, I think what I'm doing, okay, like I mentioned, my business is still in transition, so I'll talk about the past. Yes, is I will say the products and leadership is where things were going well. Because in terms of marketing and sales, I don't know if I will say it's doing well because I honestly I'm not doing much in terms of that because it's word of mouth. I always got clients through word of mouth and a lot of referrals. So I'm not sure whether is it me or is it the services that people got and then they were happy with it and then that's how it happened automatically. But in terms of marketing and sales, I would be lying if I say I'm putting any effort. But one thing I know, the product and the leadership, yes, they I can say we are doing well.
Beautiful. And then Anu and Solani, if you don't mind, Sonalia, if you don't mind, I'll have you answer the second one. So now that we know what's going really well, my second question then becomes, what's your biggest challenge? If you now look at the aeroplane again, what is the area that is lagging behind, to use that term? And if that term is a bit triggering for you, what's the area that could use some work?
I can go first now. It'll be the marketing and the sales for me, just because I have not yet taken off. So I would say that it'll be my sales and my marketing that I'd need to work on to get it up the ground and running.
Love that. Beautiful. Thank you.
So, one aspect I feel is the cash flow. However, what I can also see from the model, or as it works in planes, is everything is interlinked. So, your leadership affects your product, your marketing, everything is like it's a balance. So, if you say that one area you have a challenge, then the root cause may be something different, and that's how it is. So, need to deep dive into what's happening. So if I say cash flow, it needs to be worked out, what's going wrong where.
Exactly. Exactly. Beautiful. So, Nali, I think you might have seen my presentation before today, because that's exactly it. That's the next question is, now that you've identified where your biggest challenge is, what is the behavior or the mindset that is driving that? Because that's the thing you need to unlearn and challenge. So, for example, if you are having issues predominantly with your overheads right now, which is the body of the plane, maybe you are overstaffed and you have to pay, you have payroll is means that every single month you don't get paid, but you're just trying to pay the team even though you're not seeing the return, and that's your biggest challenge. There's a mindset there, and there's a behavior there that you're executing month after month after month that's causing that challenge. And it might just be, oh, if I'm successful, I need a big team. And you know how I know that? Because I had that mindset once. I was like, oh, it looks so nice when I can say to someone, yeah, there's 27 of us in the team. And everyone's like, wow. But I know that I'm struggling with payroll. You know, people are not pulling their weight, but I've got this mindset that I'm acting from. Remember that every single person only acts out of a mindset that they have or a belief that they have. And that's why when we see an action, we must never diagnose the action in isolation, because it only points to something that the person believes. So my final question then to you is, now that you've identified the area where you are the weakest right now, what do you need to unlearn that's driving that result? I'll give you 1 minute to just jot something down. And this is one that might need a little bit of thinking. So I'll extend that to about 2 minutes, and then we'll close off with the last two steps. But this is really where the meat is. So think, I'll give you 2 minutes in silence. Really, really think about it. And that question one more time. Now that you've identified which part of the plane is your biggest challenge, ask yourself, what is the habit or the mindset that is leading to that challenge? So whether it's products that you're struggling with, whether it's marketing and sales, what's a belief you have about marketing and sales that is holding you back? Okay. Right, 2 minutes. So I'll give you 30 more seconds if you're still wrapping up. If you already have something, please put it in the chat if you're brave enough. I would love to see what those are. Because the funny thing about our patterns and our beliefs is that they end up being the ones making our decisions for us. You think you're the bright CEO that's signing off on everything, but no, it's the version of you that is scared. It's the version of you that's feeling the shame. It's the version of you that has that mindset that is making the decisions. I was on a session this morning with a group of women, and we were working through our 90-day unlearning journal. And I was sharing with them that sometimes you think you're the one that's making your decisions, but it's the 8-year-old girl that has the core memory that's deciding who to hire, that's deciding what to sign off on. And you don't even notice it because it's still such a visceral part of you. Okay, so let's move right along. And then at the end, I know we do have some time dedicated to questions. So here's the next part. Now that we know what that behavior, that mindset is, That's the first part. And that, I think, for me is really, really exciting. The second thing that we're now going to do is we're going to find out what is it that's caused that belief and that mindset and that pattern to take root. Now, beliefs, like I mentioned a little bit earlier on, are very strange, but there are 4 key ways that a belief will become a subjective truth for an individual. That means a belief becomes the kind of thing that you believe so fully that you use it to drive your decisions and even to judge people and to judge yourself. There's a beautiful quote by Scott Card. And one of the things he says is that human beings are funny. We will challenge all of our beliefs except the ones we really believe. And those we will never question. So the things that you really, really, really believe, those are the ones nobody can touch them. Hands off that belief. And often it's those very big parts of ourselves that we've said, this is an absolute truth. And sometimes I say, when you're an unlearner, just be curious. It's not to say that anyone wants to change how you feel or what you believe. Just be curious and ask the question. So let's find out. Now, I'd like you to take the belief that you wrote down in step number 1 and think about, out of these 4 predominant ways that beliefs hardwire in the human brain, which one was yours? So I'll walk through them and then I'll give you an example. All right. The very first one is when a belief is a first mention belief. So it's got the power of the primacy bias behind it. In other words, it was the very first thing you heard about that subject. So if you believe, for example, that the problem with cash flow, the belief you have behind cash flow is that money is scarce, and if I partner with other speakers, then there's less money for me. Now, that belief might have been the very first thing you heard about money. When your parents started speaking to you about money, they said, hold on to what you have because once you lose it, it's gone forever. First mention means that the very first time you heard about that topic, that was the angle you heard. The very first time someone taught you about that, that was the first thing you heard. So ask yourself, that belief that you wrote down first, was that the way that it hardwired? And if it's not that, then might be one of the other 3. So let's look at the second one. The second way that beliefs predominantly hardwire in the brain is if they are repeated time and time again. If you have grown up at a school where all of the kids keep saying, oh, your eyes are so weird. And then the next day, oh, your eyes are so weird, all the way until you're in 7th grade, eventually you're going to think your eyes are weird. Even though your eyes are probably absolutely gorgeous. You're going to think that because that belief or that idea has been consistently repeated. So maybe that's how your belief or your habit rewired. And if it's not one of those 2, let's have a look at the other 2. Third one. Oh, this one always makes me shiver. It was said by people we trust. I'll give you an example just now. I actually had it on the screen there. Let me go back to it. When I started speaking, my mentor was a male. And so he said, Zanele, I can't advise you on how to dress as a keynote speaker, but here's a woman that you can trust in the industry. She's been around for years. She's been speaking on international stages. She's incredible. And I spoke to her and I said, okay, please advise me on how to dress. Now I'm a speaker and I want to know, how do I best show up? And she said to me, Zanele, never wear open shoes. Don't wear open shoes ever, 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 ever. And I'll never forget her saying that. And I don't know, if any of you are going to be a little disappointed, but I wear open shoes now. But I didn't for the first 2 years of my speaking career because she said, don't wear open shoes. And because it was said by someone that I trusted who had experience in the space, I thought, if I wear them, I will lose credibility. Oh my goodness, all of these things. But I failed to understand at the time that that was her truth, that was her context. And she was a much more mature speaker than me, and I can get away with it. Maybe it's just because I've got really cute toes, who knows? But that's another one, is when beliefs are said by people we trust. Think parents, think leaders at mosque and temple, think those types of people that we hold really dear. So if it's not that one, then maybe it's the last one. No contrary beliefs or stories were shared. Even if something is not the truth, if you haven't heard otherwise, you will think it is the truth. And that is the fourth way that a belief will hardwire in the human brain. If you hear or are exposed to nothing else, think about the idea of the red car. That if that's all you see, that's all you see. Your reticular activating system is calling that experience from your environment. So I'll give you one quick minute here, and I'd like for this one for us to go into the chat. If you think about your belief, what is the way that it hardwired in your mind, so much so that it's now driving how you lead and run your business, how you speak, and how you show up? Was it first mentioned? Was it repeated? And it could be more than one, that's also fine. Was it said by someone that you trusted, or people that you trusted, or a group that you trusted? Or lastly, were there just no other contrary perspectives or beliefs or stories around it? So let me know in the chat, which one was it for you? If you think about that one belief that is holding you back at the moment, well, one of the ones holding you back. Repeated has come up twice. Interesting, eh? I'd be interested to hear from you, Lisa. First mention. Oh, yeah, that one will definitely scar you. Repeated and from people that you trust. Thank you, Carola. Beautiful. Okay, so let's close off on this note. And this is now the how. So we started off by identifying that belief and that area of our business. 2, where is it actually coming from? What is the reason that it's staying so consistently and still impacting and affecting us? The last now is, what do we do? How do we actually unlearn it? So let's start here. I'm going to give you a quick activity and then introduce you to the method that we're going to use to unlearn. Here's what I'd like you to do for me. Don't think about a purple elephant. Don't think about it. Don't think about a cute, big purple elephant. Don't think about how big and purple it is. Don't think about its cute, short purple tail and its big purple ears that flow in the wind. Don't think about a purple elephant at all. Please, I'm begging you, don't think about a purple elephant. Okay. How was that? Raise your hand if you thought about purple elephant at least once that entire time. Worst, right? But that's often how we will approach our unlearning journeys, is we will say, don't do that. Oh, come on. And we'll even speak to ourselves. No, Zanele, stop doing that. Remember, we're not doing that anymore. Stop that. Don't do that. Don't do that. But just from that simple exercise, you understand that at the level of our neurology, that's not how that works. The way that you and I unlearn is we learn a new habit, is we build a new habit that we want to start to move on with. And so my question to end us off today is this. What's a belief or a pattern that you will challenge from today onwards? And that I think we've already spoken to. So I want to change this a little bit and maybe start here. And I'll just replace what you see on the screen, is what is a pattern or a belief that you are going to introduce from today onwards? Now that you know the one you want to challenge or the one you want to unlearn, what is the belief you are going to build to replace the one you want to let go of? Remember, it's grabbing hold and then letting go. What's the one you're going to grab hold of? Is it a habit that you're going to start where each and every Monday you send out a proposal to a new client you've never worked with? Is it that every single Wednesday you're just going to post a quick quote on your social media that teaches people something about your area of expertise? Or is it that you're going to start having courageous conversations with your team when things are not working so that they don't get surprised when it's time to go because they are no longer a fit in your organization? What is the habit or the belief that you are going to choose and hold on to from today? And please, with that one, do share it in the chat. And then if we've got a second afterwards, I'd love to hear it out loud too. But please do share it in the chat. Oh, I love that, Anu. Beautiful that you can have it all. Yeah, very nice. And the other hack here that is not necessarily part of the conversation, but now that you know the belief and the pattern you want to build, think about how you can introduce those 4 ways that beliefs hardwire into building the thing that you want. How do you repeat it? How do you create that first mention, whether it's mentioning it right at the beginning of your day? having somewhere where you can see it right at the beginning of your day. Repeat it is one that we spoke about. And how do you have people that you trust say it back to you? Because there's something about a rapport and a trust amongst human beings, accountability partners. And then last but not least, how do you shut out all the other stories that are contrary to that? So that that's all you hear, that you're amazing, that it can be done, that it's possible, that you deserve that, and that you flood yourself as much as you possibly can with that. And then I think the next slide is just the thank you slide. And then that's us for, let me just make sure. Okay. And then I've just got a quote that I wanted to share with you. It's one of my absolute favorites. And then I'll hand back over to you, Lisa. If we've got any questions, happy to take those. But this is one of my absolute favorite quotes. It was shared with me by a colleague of mine who we lost to COVID, who was also a speaker, Dr. Alex Granger. And it says, nobody ever steps in the same river twice, because it's not the same river and they're not the same person. And you'll know this if you've ever picked up a book or watched a movie a year later and you say to yourself, no ways. But this wasn't in the book before. But that wasn't in the movie before. Did that happen last time? It's all the same. You're just a different person now. And the movie is different because it's meeting a new person who's in a completely new frame of mind. And that's why it feels completely new. So keep that in mind now as you move ahead, as you shift things, as you challenge things, and as you unlearn and step into the next version of yourself. Thank you so, so much for having me. This has been awesome. Thank you.
Wow.
Well done, Janelle.
Wow. Speechless.
Impressive.
You made us visit the places we didn't want to visit.